They speak of the sylve where the fog whispers and the trees listen, where the mist creeps through as reason fades and fear takes root. Some say it tears the mind, but hunger lies in wait, and it still remembers the taste of men.
Hi, this is a Gainden, and what you just saw was the latest small trailer of The Curse of Rigel, which seems to be a new small content free. That's what they were talking about, where it looks like you're going to encounter a bunch of werewolf. And of course, it looks also like a main werewolf boss. And it's a new quest that is part of the latest setup. Now, there are a couple of things that I'm interested in here. First, this is a little bit short about it. I do wish there was an ability for me to really zoom in on these pictures. But it looks like it is something concocted to take advantage of the hunter, I would assume, so that you can locate this monster. It's probably going to be a small area, typical to how, if you remember that free unit encounter, like that giant boar that offered you a legendary weapon, I do believe, after that. But that is probably what we're looking at. Maybe a slightly larger size. So this is hidden deep within the Alazar Mountains lies the county of Rigel, a secluded valley where the light barely pierces the canopy. Its people whispers of the Weld, an ancient force so dense that no sunlight ever reaches the ground, warping the minds of those who enter. For months, strange attacks have spread across the land. Villagers torn apart, hunters vanishing among the roots, and a howl of beasts echoing through the dark. By the king's own command, his knights have already ventured into Rigel, seeking the sources of the terror. As corruption deepens and fear takes hold, your troops joins the campaign, offering its aid to cleanse the land, uncover the truth behind the horror, and face the darkness stirring within the well. Coming to Wartales in a free update is the Thaumaturg, a new class that is able to craft concoctions capable of turning the tides of battle in your favor. Now, I wanted to show you this.
They speak of the sylve where the fog whispers and the trees. As reason fades and fear takes root. Some say.
Now, I wonder if this is the Thaumaturg. It looks like it has those symbols of those fire worshipping fanatics. But as you see, no weapons, just a censer bearer. And he's the final one in the end before you face what is undoubtedly some kind of werewolf creature. Now, I don't know that for sure. When you read the actual text, Coming to Wartales in a free update is the Thaumaturg, a new class that is able to craft concoctions capable of turning the tides of battle in your favor. It doesn't sound necessarily like a cleric, and my understanding with a sensor bearer and all that, that is more of a cleric type, a priest. So not entirely sure if that's it. Now, a Thaumaturg is said to be a worker of wonders, something that derive their power from manipulating natural energies or esoteric knowledge. Now, I don't know if that's actually true. I always thought that Thaumaturg was something that had to do with blood magic, but I could be wrong. But that is what AI tells me, and as we know, AI is super, super accurate. Well, if that's going to be true, so that's something that uses tools like staves or talismans to channel their abilities for effect ranging from healing to destruction. So I'm not sure if that's going to be the case. To me, it sounds more, as they explained it, like a witcher. Not necessarily a warrior type, because this is supposed to be a class. I'm not entirely sure we're looking at that class. It uses craft concoctions capable of turning tides of battle in your favor. That can be one of several things. If its own weapon, that it can be something where it either dramatically enhances its abilities, or throwables, meaning that it can concoct together something where it throws firebombs and whatnot. Now, keep in mind, there are already throwables in the game that you can use. So the question is then: is this if this is a class where you are enhancing those throwables? Now, it would be probably an ideal potion making class anyway. So I'm not entirely sure if this is gonna enhance what you already have or provide new features that you can use, new concoctions, or whether those are weaponized like a throwable firebomb or whatever this case, or if it's going to be more like you take it, it heals you, or it gives you an enormous boost. So we're going to find out. Hidden deep within the Elazar Mountains lies the county of Rigel. A secluded valley where the light barely pierces the mist. Its people whisper of the Weld, an ancient force known for a strange mist and warping the minds of. So that is what we have as far as explanations for the Curse of Rigel. And I honestly think this is an interesting addition. The previous one, where you just had this boar monster, wasn't really that big. This seems to be slightly larger. It's going to be close to the Elazar Mountains. Probably not as large as its own, like, paid for DLC, but a smaller one. And it's possible that they repurposed a piece that were mostly wood anyway, so all you do is just add more features to it. But I am interested in the class, however, especially if we're going to get something that is a healable. If this is going to be it fits the idea of Wartales. Like, you don't have high fantasy in Wartales. It's more late medieval period, almost, where you start seeing firearms, like muskets. It would be interesting if the next DLC doesn't start tripping us over into that territory, or if they are going to go more on the magic side. That could be possible. Like magical in a more like an alchemical way, right? So not magical necessarily, like lightning bolts shooting out of your fingertips, but rather you have something like this one that uses alchemical concoctions in order to either heal or enhance or even explode, right? You can also add something like more of a clerical one, since you have those fanatics, that maybe you could come up with a way of it to control some of the god's power. Now, it seems like they're pointing to the god to be more of a mechanical creation. So when you do that quest where you have these lightning strikes, these divine lightning strikes happening everywhere, it seems to be this machine trying to control that. That's out of whack or going havoc or whatever is the case. Or it might just simply be that you can add a feature. Like, keep in mind, there are already some supernatural features in the game. If you're looking, for example, for like the Kraken is one area. You have that big, huge ghost monster mother. That's sort of supernatural. You also have a quest where you find these dragon bones, which don't necessarily tell you if that's an oversized iguana or if that's something more. Now you're going to have werewolves. You already have yetis. You have crypt creepers. There are already a host of things that almost supernatural, but somehow to make it just feels like it's a natural part of the world at that point. Like a giant plague rat queen, right? So there are already features in this game that it touches on the supernatural, but you're still anchored in a late medieval period time. And again, I wouldn't be surprised if you're going to see firearms eventually. Like an old timer musket or pistolet, because why not? You know, the pistolet could be a dual wielding version of a musketeer, and that could be like a very early period piece that divide like touching on the late medieval period time that this is playing out in. And that would be interesting because there were still knights in full armor using pistols instead of lances. It could fit in. It would just be certainly a powerful weapon, but on the other hand, very slow to fire. That could be the equalizer. And this existed well into, I mean, full armor, body armor, and all that existed in the early areas of firearms. Cannons? No. That's a little bit too much. Cannons. But it would be interesting. Anyway, enough speculation on that. So this is coming out on the 11th, I believe. So that's this week. That's freaking awesome. Now, as far as what I've been doing is I've been working on what's called a story video. So there's tons of videos out here for Wartales that talks about all the different functionalities, tactics, and how to maximize certain character types. And that would be a way for me to jump into that water. This game has been out long enough that there's no one interested in something that already exists in abundance. I am going to, of course, look into this particular one with my high-end guys, just to get right into it and be able to see what I can get out of that. I am also starting from fresh. I've been working on trying to edit a couple of episodes that I recorded. Now, this is more going to be a story. We are going to skip just the raw video format of me just starting a new group and going around and smacking everybody in the face. This is more going to be a story told about the group of people coming together, the background, and going forward. And I'll see where we go from there. That is what I've been working on. And as far as this one, I think that fits in pretty good. Now, the only thing that I'm missing in this game, I think, would be something like a more cohesive story that work together. I understand the idea of Wartales as being like different tales from the war, the overall war and conflict in the area, but you are a pivotal part of that. There are many things that you are going from region to region to solve, and none of it moves you back to a cohesive story where you were the instrumental piece in all of those changes. You know, they almost treat you from region to region like you're just one group doing stuff. But in reality, at least in this world, you are a very pivotal group because you're going from region to region solving those things. And narratively, what's really missing is, I wouldn't say a moral system, because in a way you are gaining favor, right? And with that favor, you can unlock certain specific missions in the region. But that's really doesn't imply anything, to be honest. You can be good or you can be bad. There are consequences of being bad, such as the wanted system. But in reality, it doesn't really changes anything, right? There is no dialogue or text or anything in the game itself that gives you the idea that there's a serious long-term consequence in anywhere. There's no infamous system where you have a different dialogue if you're more of a bad guy, and there's no dialogue system for anything that you do in any other region. That would be something that ties into a story. And I can understand why they're staying away from it, but if this is going to be an RPG light tactical medieval combat system, and you do have these features of RPG light system, then I think there should also be a slight cohesive story, and it doesn't have to be all that special, you know. Look at Fallout. It has a story, but it's not a really good story. But it's a story element that helps with Fallout 4 to just be like a background glue. People references to you after you start being more famous. As you go from different areas to build a little bit up communities and tie them together, it works. And Fallout 4 and even Fallout 3 doesn't work because the stories are not that special. There's nothing like amazing about them. But it's more that you have this storyline, and always had that in a game like Fallout, that in the background glues everything together in a way where it's like the ending scroll of every Fallout that you finish, where they talk about the things that you did and the things that you didn't, and how that do affect everything in area. And you don't necessarily have to have a summary like that in this game, but it would be good to have a scripted dialogue system where it references some of the things that you do, and there's a benefit of being either good or a bad guy in order to further a small portion of the story itself. Now, you can play this game any which you want, since you have two modes, one where it's tied to a specific level. So you don't want to charge way ahead of yourself and get yourself trashed in some areas where you don't have the level quality for it. On the other hand, you can also play it so it's more tied, that the game itself, it increases the difficulty based on your basic level. So leveled region, or just, the power according to your level. That makes it maybe a little bit harder to have a story mode, except for you can still tie certain aspects of Fame and Infamy based on a very simplistic system that also offers certain dialogue options. And that can be added in a system where it really doesn't matter what level you have. And it doesn't have to be special or Baldur's Gate 3 quality of interactive story, where definitely everything you do have different results in the world. You know what I mean? So my hope would be that the next DLC adds a little bit of that, maybe new area to explore, because I think you can easily make Wartales a game that lasts for a long time. All you have to do is add a few more levels and a new region. But I do believe that it would be worth also investing in a system that makes this more of an RPG tactical system rather than anything else. Anyway, that's really all I have to say. I am stoked, interested, and I'm definitely looking forward to playing this latest one. The fact that we're getting a new class, yeah, that's pretty awesome. That's pretty damn awesome. And I am very interested in how that's going to tie into the game. As far as what the mechanics are going to be, it can be more of like an alchemical approach. And if that's going to be a supportive class that provides healing and abilities and enhancement, etc., I'm all for it. That's going to be wonderful. In fact, it's going to be a natural character for some of the the things that you can do out there. And we'll see how they tie it together. You have a terrific day, fantastic life. I hope everything is working your way. And as I always say, until we meet again, adieu.